tonight was going to be very special because Louis hasn't been city manager for about 6 months, right? So, hey, you know, when time goes by in this space, you start to realize that, hey, you know, as I move on in my life, my best friends will carry me forward. And tonight, I think when you look around this room, you see some of Louis' best friends from childhood through city government to ball fields. So please let me say thank you to you for being part of that very special group that came out tonight to support you. At this time, I'd like to have someone who's really gone along for the ride with Louis, someone who's been a great friend to Louis, Bishop Brian Greene.
Oh, it's quiet here.
Say a prayer for me.
John Maxwell, the leadership guru back in the 90s, he said, charisma, that is gifting, gets you into the door of opportunity, but only character keeps you there. And I found Louis to be a man of character. I met Louis when I should say he's walked with me. I walked with him in 3 stages of my life. The first time I met him was as a teenager. I was hired, I was part of the Maher program to work in the budget office with him as a 17-year-old junior at Athens High School. And then when I graduated from Bentley University, I got hired to work in the financial management department at the Cambridge Hospital and became a budget analyst there. And so I was part of that life there. And then I ended up in 1995 becoming a pastor. So it seems like I've had 3 lives with Louis. When I was working in the hospital, I met his mom, and I see where he gets his spunk from. But it's interesting that I believe that names are prophetic, and that names end up indicating a person's destiny in life. And I looked up the name Louis, and it's a German name that means famous warrior. And with all the things now back to normal, it's hard to appreciate how the Lord used Louis to lead us through the most challenging years that we've had as citizens a year, of course 2020 and 2021, where we went through such a horrible pandemic, and we needed somebody who would fight for the city, fight for those who were struggling through that hard time. And so we're grateful to you, Louis, for leading us through the pandemic. Also, I have with me what many of you might know, especially those of you in the military. I have what is called a challenge coin. And a challenge coin is a medallion that is historically presented to an individual in recognition of special achievements. 3 weeks ago, as a chaplain for the Cambridge Police Department, we finally got our own challenge coins, and I was thinking about who could I give a challenge coin to because of their great achievements. And I thought about you, and so on behalf of myself as a pastor and the chaplains, the Cambridge Police Department, I want to present to you a challenge coin to let you know how much you're appreciated. And I want to close out, because I know as a pastor you think I'm going to be very long. But I want to close out with a blessing that is written in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. And it's a blessing that is prayed, I pray over my congregation every week. And it's this, it says, may the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. May the Lord bless you with his shalom, his peace, his rest, his harmony, his calmness, his composure, his prosperity, and his success. And may the Lord remove anything that causes agitation or discord with his divine purpose and destiny for your life. We bless you in the name of and Savior Jesus Christ. And enjoy your retirement, enjoy the celebration, and know that you're loved and appreciated. God bless you.
That has been, thank you for being here on such a special night for Louis. At this time, I'd like to have former Mayor David Maher come up. Many of you know David as a former school committee member, son of a great guy, Billy Maher, city councilor, mayor twice, and now as head of the Chamber of Commerce. But tonight he's here as Louis' friend. David, come on up.
Thank you very much, Anthony, and I'm very glad that Anthony has gotten over his shyness in speaking in public. Good evening. It's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you tonight and to be able to celebrate Louis' retirement as city manager in his distinguished service for 47 years with the city of Cambridge. To really know Louis is to appreciate who he is at the core. A proud East Cambridge kid at heart.
East Cambridge, baby!
A family man. A proud Italian American. Even the Irish can clap for that. A dedicated and sometimes exuberant baseball coach. A loyal friend. A dedicated employee. And perhaps most of all, a Canterbridgian through and through. Louis' love and commitment to the city of Cambridge runs deep. Rivaling, I've had a couple of drinks, sorry. His love of playing cards and his weekend trips to see the horses in Saratoga. And those of you who think that he's just there to pat the horses, you're incorrect. Louis' long career path with the city of Cambridge almost didn't happen. He was fairly content with the way things were moving along with his career at the old East Cambridge landmark, Leechmere Sales. And he almost passed on the chance to interview with the city. Looking back, Mr. Manager, I think you made a right decision. Louis' career choice has always been as an accountant, a bean counter to some. But this guy stood out. While he was always a numbers guy, he always had a big heart, compassion, and a deep love for the city of Cambridge and our residents. Louis is an extremely relatable guy. There is no pretense or big ego with Louis.
Damn straight.
He would be happy sharing a bottle of wine with friends he grew up with, or at a business meeting with business leaders, or even the president of Harvard or MIT, just so long as they came with a glass of ice in his wine. For enjoyment, he may prefer a visit to Foxwoods or Mohegan over spending a day at a local museum, or going to a concert rather than the symphony, especially if it happened to be Marie Osmond, who was playing. And Louis likes to eat. Give him a good dish of pasta or a good steak, just as long as it comes with a side of ketchup with that steak. Louis certainly enjoyed his daily lunches with friends and colleagues, a good time to break away from the office, share conversations, and take time to recharge after the rest of the day, for the rest of the day. Looking back, Louis' friend and mentor, the late Al Galluccio, would be proud to see how things worked out for Louis, and that all that Louis was able to accomplish for the people of Cambridge during his long career, but especially as city manager of Cambridge. Louis continued to build on the financial success of former city manager Bob Healy and Rich Rossi, and Rich is right with us tonight. Louis made it a priority to protect and secure the city's strong financial position. He was able to do this while at the same time investing in acquiring new open space throughout the city, investing in environmental initiatives and infrastructure, supporting public education, including the building of state-of-the-art new public schools, creating and providing funding for more affordable housing, and perhaps most importantly, managing the city of Cambridge through the toughest times anyone could have imagined through the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. And for that, we all owe you, Louis, a great deal of gratitude. Through it all, Louis showed compassion, heart, and a deep commitment to our city, his city. Louis, on behalf of the business community, I want to thank you for your long and dedicated service to the city of Cambridge. Personally, I have enjoyed working together with you, and I am pleased to call you a friend, and I wish you a long and happy retirement. To Cheryl, congratulations on your retirement. We wish you all the best and say, he's yours now, Cheryl. So good luck with that from all of us. Thank you all, and congratulations to you.
Great evening. Great evening. Okay, folks. I know you know me. So, some enthusiasm. You know, this is Louis' party. Act like you're having a good time. Woo! Great evening. Great evening. Much better, much better. I am so pleased to be here. It is a great evening because we're getting an opportunity to celebrate someone who I really like. And I've known a number of city managers, but where's Richie? Come here. Louis, I liked you the best. You know, each city manager comes with their own particular and special gifts. But as David and others have said, Louis is a really special person inside and out, and that goodness really comes out. No matter who he meets, who he talks to, he takes time to chat and say, I'll get back to you, and where's Cheryl? Take that phone call. Just take his phone, girl, and throw it in the toilet. Bishop Greene, where's Bishop Greene? Thank you so much for the blessing for Louis. You should have blessed Cheryl. She has a sliver to make. He's home every day. The other day she was in church. She didn't genuflect, she kneeled because she had to pray. So grace to put up with this man who she loves dearly, but it's home over there. And David, you're right. Where's David? David, where are you? David is correct about Louis being very fiscally prudent and coming out of the ranks. He has done such a great job. He would hold on to a penny, Lincoln would cry. But this is the kind of man he was. Even though he was frugal, he made sure that we had money for affordable housing. And I think he was instrumental in following up on the policies and practices of the city council to make sure we were able to have that affordable housing in Cambridge under the Affordable Housing Act. So thank you so much, Lee, for that. Or not saying no when the school budget needed additional money. Louis was always there. When I became mayor in 08, no, it was 16 or 17, whatever it was. When I became mayor, Louis became city manager, and I have to say, it was a real pleasure to work with him. When I would sit down and talk with him, and we didn't agree on everything. I mean, I had a couple of times I had to go down and kind of clear his desk. You know, Louis, I really need this funded. But he was thoughtful, and he wanted to always make sure whatever he did had a direct impact. Whether it's universal design park, whether it was additional funding for homeowners rehab, whether it was funding the after-school programs, broadening the band that would allow more people to come in, Louis was always there. I don't know how he did it. I'm sure that the Pope is thinking up there in Rome, I think I'll canonize him as Saint someday. I think that's all good work. Yes, give him applause. You know, Saint Louis. I can speak for myself. myself. It's been a pleasure working with Louis for many, many years. I remember when his hair was long and he wore it in a ponytail. Louis was always the kind of guy that was often the first there and always the last to leave. We really my relationship with Louis is one where we always agree. We might disagree, but we wouldn't be disagreeable. We could go out at the end of the evening and have meatballs or ravioli, because he only eats at Italian restaurants, but that's okay. He promises me we're going to go to Daryl's Corner one time and have soul food, so I'm going to keep it to that. Louis has always worked in good faith, trying to balance the many different demands of him, trying to do the right thing with competing interests. I mean, if he can work with 9 city councils, that's something that you should have gotten a raise for that. But Louis brought a sense of enthusiasm, fairness, decency, good faith. Even when I would call him at 6 o'clock in the morning, he would call me back at 6:05 and say, Denise, I know it's something serious. And I'll say, yes, I couldn't find my car this morning. But he was always very helpful, because that was important. One thing that people who haven't worked in city government need to understand, that you can't take this job unless you really, really love your community. You don't sign up to take the hits, the knocks, the public criticism. In fact, I was going to get a shirt for Louis. I'm going to present it to you. It says, I used to love people, but people killed it for me. Over the decades-long career in City Hall, Louis made it a better place to work. Young kids found their place, their self-esteem under his guidance on Little League. Untold numbers of Cambridge residents are going to have affordable housing and will remain a part of the city for years to come. The city is going to remain the envy of municipalities across the Commonwealth because of how he navigated our financial affairs. Louis accomplished so much over the years. Much of it is so under the radar, you don't know. He doesn't brag, he doesn't boast. He doesn't put himself out there. During COVID, Dave mentioned what we did during COVID. And when that money was allocated, Louis said, thank the council. At the end of the day, it was thank Louis. Thank Louis for making a way out of no way. Standing up when others would sit down. Running in when others would run out. So, Louis, thank you. Thank you for a job well done. Please raise your glass.
I have to get back to that person. Not important, not powerful people, not important people, just people. And to me, I hope that this carries on, this legacy throughout city government, but something tells me that that legacy is going to be something that people are going to look back at and remember Pasquale. I do want to say, as you drive around the city, you see all the bricks and mortar. Louis has left his trail behind. You see the new Finch affordable housing, the new shelter for the unhoused that came out of the COVID work, the new schools, the universal needs park that's mobbed every Saturday, the Foundry building. That's all the bricks and mortar. But what I think is going to be missed most is those people who don't know anyone, who aren't connected, that knew Louis. It was a household name. And Louis, that's something that you've left your imprint on, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I want to thank you for it. Personally, I met Louis playing baseball. And I know, like, many of you have that story, how you met Louis, whether he became a mentor to you or an advisor, a mensch to you throughout your life. For advice, you called Louis. I was a catcher in West Little League. Louis was an umpire. I talked a lot. I think he had a little sentimental thing for Italian kids that were slow. And so I ended up on Louis' Babe Ruth team. As with a lot of other Italian kids, to be honest. But so, right now, I want to just speak to something that we all have become very familiar with. And that's something I call Lou-capulary. Bobby, can you give me one of those just so I can? So, some of you have actually begun to speak this language because you talk so much to Louis that you have become a little piece of that. So I want to walk through this because those of you who played for Louis or have been around Louis, these are the expressions that are now part of your vocabulary. Now, again, I know this is a fun night, but this is an academic lesson, and I want you to take from this. So chapter 1 is the rating of things, actions, and people. These are adjectives, but Louis uses them as adjectives, verbs, and nouns, and he combines them all, okay? So chapter A is general responses. First one you all know, tremendous, right? Now, that could be an early morning response, meaning, hey, great game, tremendous. Or if Louis really, really wants to accentuate that, it's going to be a strong, tremendous, okay? Now you move down towards to the next level of excitement, and you get, that's outstanding. He drops the voice at the end, he goes a little silent, and he's staying with that was outstanding. Now we move into the rankings of people. Because in Louis' world, you get ranked in different categories, right? So, first one, wow, what a legend. So, if you are a legend, you have made it into Louis' world, you have begun the entry into the ranking system, right? But legend could also be an action word. So, that whole event could have been legendary, right? Okay, now this one, all you know. This is patented. That was a classic. All right? But you could also be a classic. You follow me? This word could go either way. But if you're a classic, you've really solidified yourself in Louis' mind. Now we get to now we get to Hall of Fame. If you've gone all the way to Louis' Hall of Fame, you are a Hall of Fame. But there is a chance, and there is a small group of people in this category that become Hall of Famer. You see what I'm saying? You're in the Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame. So you're a Hall of Fame. Okay. So now you've got to the Hall of Fame. Now we're going to go to just the last piece of this, which I love the most, because when you played for Louis, you lived in Louis' world. If you made a catch, you remembered the catch, but you remembered Louis saying, "What a great catch!" while you were catching the ball. So it's all part of the memory, because he was a commentator while the game was going on. And as Joe Grassi pointed out to me today, no one could fit more sane sentences into one sentence. It was like a whole paragraph. And often that would end with, "Atta boy!" or "Atta baby!" Okay. The best one, and I know all the folks that have worked with Louis, how supportive he is. This one speaks to all of our work with him. You can do this. And the reason I love this is because Louis could start with it. Hey, listen, come here. You can do this. But he would wait for the perfect timing, when the park was silent, when no one else was speaking, to say, "You remember, you can do this." And in that moment, you could do it. And now, please, if you're at the table, you played for Louis or you didn't, put a crown on, because this is one of the greatest ones. And this is only Louis. If you heard this one, it meant you did something pretty good. And that's when he would say, "You king, you." Now, king has become a pretty strong expression, and I love it myself. And MBK, we call our young men kings, and it's gender neutral, this king thing. He had girls that played for his teams, and they were kings too. But focus on the fact that it's not just that you're a king, it's you, king, you. Okay. Now, the final of all finals is this one. No one has ever said this before. No one will ever say it again. Most things are ranked, if they are top notch, 5 stars. Right? 5-star hotel, 5-star restaurant. They messed around with the 6 thing, it didn't fly. 5 stars is the thing. Louis decided that he was gonna come up with the 50 stars. Now think about that for a second. You've gone from 5, which is the average human ranking, top, to add 45, where if a thing or event or a person becomes 50 stars, you can't even debate that. There's no room. It's a conclusion. It ends the conversation. If Louis declares it 50 stars, you're speechless. It's over. Close the book. Okay? So here's what I'm going to say to you. All of you for coming tonight are 50 stars. I want you to put those crowns on. I want you to put those crowns on. And I want to say, hey Lou, you king, you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hey Lou, you king, you.
Thank you, Anthony. You know that you have made it, and you know that you are a superstar when you're known by one name. Elvis, Madonna, Cher, Louis. Okay? And I say that sort of in jest, but it's not really, because you earn that because of the person who you are and how you treat other people. And there's a reason that everybody in Cambridge knows Louis as Louis and not City Manager DePasquale. One, because so many people had a hard time pronouncing it, but also because you had an open door policy with everybody. You make everybody feel comfortable, you make everybody feel welcome, you make everybody feel special. And that is what you brought to that office, and what you bring to the field, and what you bring every day in the city of Cambridge. So Louis, thank you so much for everything that you've done, and will continue to do in our community, and you'll always be known by one name.
We just want to be brief and say thank you for everything you've done for my time with the schools, coaching on the field, anything that we needed in the city in terms of fields and youth centers. You've been there to make it happen. So just thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you for my children as well for making this a great city. Thank you.
Louis played for me when he was 8 years old. I was his coach at Donnelly Field. And Louis' father was my father's boss at Hyde Shoe. And my father came home one day and said, you gotta do me a big favor. Make sure Louis DePasquale gets picked in Little League. He was a politician way early on. And I said, okay, so in those days we probably had 600 kids who tried out for the Little League, and there were only 12 teams between the minors and the Little League. So I had a stack of cards this big. I went through it 14 times. I could not find Louis DePasquale. So I said to my father, Dad, I can't find his card. He said, oh, he never tried out. I picked Louis, and Louis was tremendous. He was, see, there's the word. Louis he didn't speak much in those days. He would nod his head and say yes to everything. But the attendance at those games was not many people at all. Most people, parents worked and they just couldn't go to the games. Louis had 3 aunts, his mother and father, his grandmother, 4 or 5 uncles, cousins. He took up one whole set of bleachers. And as 8 years old, maybe you weren't a starter, but I remember I put him in a game and the bases were loaded. And for those of you from East Cambridge, we were playing against the DiDomenico brothers. And that was like threatening everybody, Louis, if you wouldn't make it, And the bases were loaded, we were up 1 run. Kid hits a wicked line drive. Louis closed his eyes, put his hand up, caught the ball, and didn't realize it for about 15 seconds. And of course, his mother ran out of his house. And the umpire is saying, either you stop this right now or you're not. So it just, watching him as because I live in Watertown up on a hill over Victory Field. And I would be in my house and I'd be watching, you know, like the Red Sox, and I'd have the window open. I'd say, wait a minute, Louis must be down Victory Field, because I could hear him yell, come on! And the other thing is, so I can say this because Bob Healy's not here. If he was here, I'd have to revise it. But Louis was, in my mind, the top numbers guy in Cambridge all the time. But I could never say it in front of Bob. And then the other thing that Anthony kind of was close to but just missed, not only did Louis have this language, but he had the eyes. Louis would say more with his eyes than most people say, you know, when they're reading a 300-page novel. He would just look at you and raise his eyebrows. I can remember Bob saying, "What did he do? What did he do?" And I didn't really see it. It was a lot. We had so much fun at work, but we also had so much fun running the city. It was just a pleasure, and it was wonderful. And I think, you know, Louis grew up strictly as a numbers guy, but he did have to fast track a lot of different things that he didn't really get a chance to work with, you know, being the treasurer and the assistant city manager and all. But he learned, and I think he kept Cambridge going the way it deserves to be run, and it provided all the things that needy people want and need, and he was right there for them. And I knew Louis' mother and father very well. This would be the proudest moment of their life. Maybe the second proudest. The day he got born in would have been the proudest. But they would have loved this, and Jean would have been running up, kissing him right there on the stairs. And that was great. And the other thing is, it was mentioned about COVID, you know, and sitting back and watching what Cambridge did versus all these other communities, not to take anything away from them. The Cambridge response to COVID is something that all of you who are connected to the city councilors, other department heads, should be so proud of. That response was incredible. And, you know, it's just, I was really happy to see that to the city. So, Lou, congratulations, kid. Hang in there. And Louis.
Here's a quick story about Richie Ross. I was at the Moore School, and there was some talk about closing the Moore School. And Richie was at the meeting, and I said to the parents out there, I says, if they try to close this school, I'm going to chain myself to the door. And so one of the parents raised their hand and said to Richie, well, if Mr. Fantini chains himself to the door, what are you going to do? And Richie came to the mic and he said, it's just going to increase the demolition costs. So I just want to say to Louis, you know, Louis been a great friend, and Louis one of the few people that when I call always picks up the phone instantly. So he could be in the middle of a meeting, and he would pick up the phone and he would say, "What do you want, friend?" And I thought that was tremendous. And I said to him one time, well, "Why do you do that?" And he says, "Because when you call, it's about kids. It's about taking care of kids. It's about doing something for the schools that are better. It's never about what you want. It's about what the kids need." And you know, and I could call Louis and get that response. And so, where else can that happen in industry and anything? So he set a tremendous high bar for helping kids. And he has a great wife that supports him. It takes a family. It takes a family working together. Cheryl lets him be the leader that he is, and for that I am so grateful. And I can call Louis and say, Louis, there's a playground for kids that needs about $150,000 worth of play equipment. And Louis would say, I'll have the director of public works down there tomorrow and we'll get that done for you. And it was just all about kids, all about making sure their lives were better. And the sadder the story, the more action Louis would take. So Louis, you really are the best, and from someone who, you know, I'm very grateful for what you've done for the children in Cambridge. You are really the best, and I love you. I really do.
Louis, I want to say congratulations, and And I want to be clear, nobody's happier that you retired than your wife. She actually loves being with you. She's not shy about that, and it's really a testament to just what an amazing human being you are. And of course, she's really married well. And just to say, Louis, I've known you in a lot of different ways. Did not know you till I became a city councilor at the age of 25. Was way over my head, right? Clearly wasn't going to admit that to anybody. And you always made yourself available. I never felt stupid not knowing how this place worked or how a budget worked, and your availability. And I say that because I was a young 25-year-old woman in really still in Cambridge and still a man's world, quite honestly, in Cambridge politics. And you were incredibly supportive, encouraging, and 25 years later, the confidence that I had to continue moving, it's those little moments, those seeds that people who you look up to, who you think are important and smart, and you can see that they believe in you. So I want to make sure people understand that's where we began. Moving fast forward, I also got to know you as the coach for my kid. And you forgot about volume. There's a lot of volume there, and Louis the coach. Louis the coach is very different than Louis anything else. It's also a testament that, my son Brendan wanted to be here tonight. He comes to none of this stuff with me, but he wanted to be here tonight because of you. So I also think I don't want this moment to go by to remind people about the incredible role that you've played on the Cambridge Health Alliance. And I think I don't think most of the community really understands, well before being a city manager where it was actually your job, you actually served on the board of the Cambridge Health Alliance. To remind you, it's the only public hospital in the entire state. It is a safety net hospital. When we had the pandemic first hit us, they had the highest number of people on ventilators because they service the most vulnerable people in our society who could not stay home and hide from this virus. Your support for this hospital over decades, I've seen it behind the scenes. We've done a lot of work together over the years. And your commitment was about the people that are being served at the Health Alliance. And someone said earlier, I think it was Denise, that you can't run for office, work for the city, serve as city manager, as everyone up here knows, unless you really love the city, because it's hard and it's thankless. And you don't do it for the thanks. You do it because you love the people and you understand what's at stake and the outcomes, and that you have spent 47 years knowing that every day you can make a difference in someone's life. So for that, Louis, I really, I love you. You're a family friend. We love your family. My family loved you as a coach. I haven't always loved you as a coach, but my kids have. And so does my husband. My husband loves you. But you've always loved me in every capacity. So that I always appreciate. But truly, as an elected official, as a kid who grew up here in public housing, who stands here as a state representative, and as a mom, and as a daughter of a Cambridge kid, I am so grateful for your service, and your hands have helped make this a city that has served people. I know Anthony wants to wrap it up, but this is 47 years of a lot of people who are grateful for your service. That's what this is a testament to. Thank you.
And believe it or not, at the age 56, I'm the junior councilor. And I've had the shortest period of time working with Louis as city manager, but in the few months that I got to work with him, he was just a fantastic support. But in my prior life, I was a public servant as a teacher at the Harrington School, and then went on to become the president of the Cambridge Teachers Association. And I know we have a lot of firefighters and police officers and other public employees, so I'll just take this as an opportunity to thank you as a former and current public employee for all the wonderful things you've done for the people who work for the city, and for making sure that we have good pay, good benefits, and a secure retirement. So thank you, Louis, and all the best in your retirement.
Paul, you might not know me. I'm Dennis Carlone. I've been on the council 9 years. Prior to that, I was a consultant to the city for 30 years, urban design and architecture. And generally, I try to include a lot of humor in my comments, because the council, quite frankly, is not humorous many times. And one of the things I have with Louis is he seems to get my jokes and I get his. And that's a very unusual trait in people. He is unique that way. So the bishop opened up beautifully. David Maher went into detail. There's been a lot of humor, so I hardly have anything to add other than and Denise began this, 9 city councilors, 9 different opinions. And this man has to put it all together. And he did a pretty good job of that. Yes, I wasn't pleased all the time, and I want to talk to you about that later. But he tried, and that is to be recognized. It's not easy running a city. It's not easy. You never do everything correctly. You can't. But we did a pretty good job, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you again. Cheryl, we wish you very well in handling him at all. And his kids, we wish you well. It's been a great trip, so thank you.
Yeah, let me just change this up a little bit in terms of the jokes and stuff. Al was mentioned earlier, and I think in many regards this is about heart. Louis gets up every single morning, and the first thing he puts on is his heart on his sleeve. Because it really is about making a difference. There was a time with Al and my dad, that's what the city was about. It was about helping somebody, because this was a city of a lot of downtrodden. And people rose and made a difference. So, as I'm here, Louis, with you tonight, I actually have 2 images to sort of share. And one was a quote by Herbert Humphrey, and he talks about the measure of government. The moral test of government is how government treats those in the dawn of life. The children. Those in the twilight of life, the elderly. And those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. Louis has touched so many lives throughout life and never once sought any self-recognition. And so I leave you with my second vision. There is a famous movie that you will see in the coming months, just about 2 months from now, and there won't be a station you can't turn and get it on. It's the movie A Wonderful Life. And I cannot imagine, just like George, what life would have been like if George wasn't around. Louis, I can't imagine what life would have been for so many people, but for you. Every morning you can get up and look in the mirror and say, you made a difference.
Oh my gosh, these are really hard comments to follow. I met Louis when I was 26 years old and the mother of 3 kids, playing, well, I guess the first one was playing in Little League. And, you know, I just got to know Louis. He's never a coach. For my kids, he was the, Now you want to fast forward until the mid-'80s, and I ran for city council, and much to my astonishment, I got elected. And I was told by Bob Healy and Rich Rossi that there was a lot of consternation that night in the manager's office. They were like, oh my God, this person we don't know and we think she's a real rebel rouser got elected. And I've always been grateful because the story is that Louis said, it's okay. I know her and she's okay. So baseball's not life, but actually maybe in that instance it was. Louis, you've been wonderful to me over the years, and I hope I've been okay to you, but you've been the most fabulous city servant. And actually, in the last 5 years, working with you on the development of the Foundry and several other really important developments in town, you have proved to be a true blue, loyal person that I can always count on for giving me the straight story. So maybe baseball is life.
Punishment going last. So, but I have more time now because everybody else spoke. But, you know, Louis has been a long time friend. I've known Louis since I was a little kid. And he's a Cambridge kid growing up, kind of just hanging out in Peter Bellucci's basement at the insurance agency with Al and Peter and the whole Bellucci team. And with his parents down there, just, those were fun years, fun times times we all miss. And my parents have known Louis a long, long time. My dad grew up in East Cambridge, as all of you know. And my dad, whenever we left a meeting with Louis, always saw him somewhere. The one thing he would just say, right after we left the office or talked to him, he'd just say, he's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. And that's one of the highest honors you can give somebody by saying that. And he has proven that over the years. And he's been a special friend to my family. To our feast in East Cambridge, which I call Louis' Feast, St. Cosmo Damien Feast. And a little known secret is we don't pick groups based on who people like. We pick groups because you can fit in the budget. But we knew last year's feast was going to be Louis' last feast as our city manager. And we had heard the stylistics were one of his favorite groups. So we actually booked the style. I don't like the stylistics, by the way. I hate the stylistics. But we booked them because you like them. And you saw Louis' face that night. Russell Tompkins, the famous Russell Tompkins, was there in East Cambridge singing on Warren Street. And Louis couldn't have been prouder. And that is the only group we've had. Frankie Avalon, the Village People, Tony Orlando. He didn't care what anybody. He wanted a picture with the stylistics. And that's the only time, it's in his phone, there you go. The only group with all the groups we've had, that was the only one he wanted. And I'm just so glad that we did that, because you deserve that. All the support that you've given our feast over the years. And being an East Cambridge guy and being an East Cambridge kid, even though I live about 50 yards from the tracks, it's still, I'm East Cambridge, I'm East Cambridge. But it really is a special relationship that we've had with all of you and your family and Cheryl. You know, people aspire, and you've been a great city manager. We've already heard all the accolades about what a special person, but being the pinnacle of your career, being a city manager of a city that you love, but more importantly, being the city manager of a city that loves you. That is what is really what Louis DePasquale is about. And that's not easy to do in any environment. And moving to Everett, no one from Everett tonight, right? Okay. No cameras, put your phones down, everybody. But looking at Cambridge from the outside now, and seeing how well run it was, it is, and the amazing contributions that you've given to the city, I have a special appreciation for what you do, even more so now. We can't take it for granted because we're living in the moment, right? We're living in the city. But Louis is a really exceptional and tremendous person who has done so much for the city, for our kids, neighborhood organizations, young people, old people, you name it. In Mills River, I'm glad you got your accolades, Mills River, and the reopening of Mills River. That is another piece of your legacy. There's going to be so many ribbons cut in the city going forward, so many dedications that have your footprint and your handprint on it. They're going to be Louis DePasquale's legacy in the city of Cambridge. So I want to thank you for all that you do. And lastly, you know, we all aspire to be, have lofty titles in life and be rich. And Louis cared about just being a good dad, a good husband, a good friend. Never wanted to look for the big titles. He just wanted to be a Cambridge guy who just was there. And I'll add one more to that, a true gentleman. Thank you much.
I'm texting back and forth with Mary Ellen. Every committee meeting we had, Mr. Galluccio at every meeting said, no one can speak more than 3 minutes. There's going to be 6 people speaking, and we're going to adhere to that agenda very closely. And as you can see, true to his word, Mr. Galluccio did it on his own, but Mary Ellen and Andy will take all the committee members, but we've been texting back and forth on this. It's all right, my friend? But it is truly about Louis here this evening. And before I get to a couple of short stories about growing up with Louis, I do want to recognize his beautiful wife, Cheryl McCarthy, DePasquale. So we have a long connection. And his beautiful children, Louis Jr. and Kristen. Mary and Linda and their spouses and their families will all stay with us. his cousin Dottie Galluccio is also here with us. So, but as I said, it's not only about Louis, but I just have to mention the impact that Louis had on the city, but certainly the impact that his wife Cheryl has had on the city too. And you know, with her support, the children's support, of being away from many functions over the years, and missing out on certain activities, and always being there supporting Louis is a testament to their love and their loyalty. And as someone said, Cheryl is retired this year from the city of Cambridge, the school department. And another little known fact, maybe about Cheryl, who was very successful. She was actually the executive assistant to the late great chef Julia Child, and that was quite an accomplishment, quite a job. So it's quite a dynamic couple who has done so much for the city. My friendship with Louis goes back to our early childhood in East Cambridge. Both of us came from very humble backgrounds. Growing up, as many did in three-decker houses, hard-working parents who taught us the value of caring for others. A neighborhood where everyone watched over one another, extended family living in the neighborhood. And certainly the Louis family was an embodiment of that. Louis three-decker on the first floor was cousins the Mueller family. The second floor was the DiDomenico family, aunt and uncles. Louis' family, his father Louis, and his mother Jean, Linda and Mary, all grew up on the third floor. And in the back house at 112 7th Street lived Louis' nanny, Anna, and a very, very special uncle that Louis had growing up. And I know he thinks of him every day, who was taken very early, his Uncle Frank. And that was the typical East Cambridge family, how we all lived. Louis and I and many other kids from East Cambridge developed lifelong friendships that continue to this day. Our gathering spot to plan our mischievous adventures for the day actually began in Louis' yard at 110 112 7th Street, under the family's grapevine. And on more than one occasion, Louis would pick those grapes before they were fully ripened, which believe me earned him a very strict reprimand from the winemakers who were not pleased with him. That happened on more than one occasion. When we see today, what a typical day for kids growing up today, all the incredible benefits that they have and the resources. But our typical day back then, our activity would include just simple games that we made up. It would be some type of a sports activity, especially stickball at the old High School, the Gap. We actually painted on the wall the batter's box. And every kid had a special team. My team was the Los Angeles Dodgers. George Alexander was the Red Sox. Mike Nick was Cleveland. Tripty was the Minnesota Twins. And can anybody guess what Louis' team was? The damn Yankees. You got it. And everybody, believe it or not, had little scorecards. Who was up, what they did, if they got a base hit, whatever. And every other, if we played Louis, every other batter that came up was Mickey Mantle. And that caused more arguments that he was just up, what are you talking about? Louis is, as we all know, is really a die-hard Yankees fan. The other game that we came up with, we made all these, was pickleball, and we played that at the old Dow factory, which is now the Robert W. Haley Police Station on 6th Street. We used to have the fire department, before these guys, the firefighters, would come down to the Klondike Field, and they would flood the park in the winter, so that we could ice skate. Now these kids have beautiful ice skate rinks everywhere. In baseball cards, and I know dating myself, and we all wish that our parents didn't throw out those baseball cards back then, because we'd all be retired somewhere warm right now. But we played, topsies and leaders, and those were great activities. But a special treat once a week, when Lou's mother would invite us up for a little dessert. And the dessert then was a box of devil dogs and a big gallon of milk. But rest assured, we were lucky if we got a third of one devil dog and a thimble of milk, while Louis had at least 3 devil dogs and the whole gallon of milk. And that's a true story, believe what I say. And I know a lot of people wonder, what brought Louis into the finance world? As I said, we grew up together, graduated from Boston School, and as freshmen, we graduated from Manhattan High School. But as freshmen, my Aunt Marie, or Louis' Uncle Frank, would drive us from East Cambridge to Mackinac, which was in North Cambridge. And that was a big truck for us back then, from going from East Cambridge to North. And with all those drives to Mackinac High School, Louis would be in the back seat. He would have the Record American and the Globe, the sports pages up. And he would scour every box score, every result, from whatever sport was playing that season, Suffolk Towns, Wonderland. And that's where he really began his love for numbers. And it certainly continued in his retirement, as Evan said, Saratoga, one of his favorite spots. And once in a while to the casino with George and a few of the others. And I know people mentioned about coaches, but I also want to recognize and thank all the coaches over the years who, like Louis, dedicated so much time and energy for our children. And believe me, I'm sure it's not a very easy job coaching, but they did it out of love for the city and for the kids. And I know a lot of people, Louis was a very quiet and unassuming man. But if you ever went to one of his games where he was the coach, a completely different persona. And quiet, unassuming was out the window, for sure. One of the other things we always enjoyed, when growing up, there was weddings, there was barbecues, all kinds of activities, softball tournaments that we all went to, and really were very close. But at any of those occasions, like many people don't know that Louis thinks of himself as quite the crooner. And at any function, whatever it was, especially after several glasses of vino, Louis needed no hesitation to grab the microphone and belt out a few of his favorite songs. And actually, those Dean Martin, That's Amore, and his favorite Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. We were very fortunate growing up in that era, and I know a lot of people here from East Cambridge that grew up here from Cambridge that realized how lucky we really had it. It was really family, and friends. And everyone looked out for one another. Doors were unlocked. No one had any problems. And if you did something on 8th Street, before you got home to 6th Street, your parents already knew what you did, and you were held accountable. But that was the caring that people had for one another. And so we were blessed. We certainly were blessed. And someone mentioned Jean DePasquale, and she really was the energy, drawing a blank, energy bunny that was just nonstop. And she looked out over all of us. She just had incredible amount of energy, and loved life, and loved people, and that was passed on to her children, for sure. And I'm sure Louis appreciates and knows just the impact that they had on Louis. And in closing, I have to acknowledge, again, 5 very important individuals who played a major role in Louis' life. As I said, his parents, Lou and Greene. And Louis will, in his short talk, I'm sure will touch upon, I think David Ross said, the wise decision that Louis
made was not continue to leach me sales. I always said it was the wisest decision, marrying Trevor. But Louis will give the full credit who made that wise decision for Louis, because Louis had other plans, but he can get into that. But I know the other three individuals that really played an amazing factor in Louis' life and had a lasting impression on him. First of all, the late great Maher Galluccio and the Rossi family, who was so close to Louis' family, and tremendous. But I also like to mention his Uncle Frank Spirito, who Louis absolutely was devoted to him, and his uncle was devoted to him. And probably his Uncle Frank probably started him on the trips to Suffolk Downs and Wonderland. But they were extremely close, as was Bill Galluccio. Those individuals died much too early. But I know that Louis thinks of them every single day, and the impact that they had on his life was just incredible. So no doubt in my mind that all five of them right now are looking down here at this event and just saying how proud they are of their son and nephew, Louis DePasquale. Just a kid from East Cambridge. Years to come, you deserve every piece of happiness and hopefully some winning pari-mutuel tickets at the tracks.
Hi everyone. Hello. I'm going to read, so please don't judge. I asked to speak first because as much as I can talk to anyone, I was not given the gift of public speaking. I'm going to speak briefly and let my brother take the lead. I want to thank everyone for celebrating our dad with us. Some of you may know my dad is the closest person in my life. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't talk. He is who I call on my way to work, he is who I call for advice, he is who I call to vent to, and much more. So if I'm being honest, I had some jealousy sharing him with the city of Cambridge. Our daily phone calls were sometimes brief because my dad called in. His love and passion outside of his family is for the city. Even this summer, when my parents took a well-deserved 3-week vacation in Saratoga, New York, when asked if he would do it again next summer, he said yes, but not 3 weeks in a row. Chris and I have never been away from the city of Cambridge as long in my life. Now, clearly, I did not get my passion for traveling from my dad, but this comment kept replaying in my head. To view a city as your home, the place you miss, speaks to his love for Cambridge, and that was evident in his time as city manager. As I watched him excel, my jealousy ended and I grew even more proud of my father. Today wouldn't be complete though if I didn't mention those who unfortunately no longer with us, but I know are just as proud. Our Nana and Poppy, Uncle Frank, Uncle Bill, Anna Mary Campbell, and my dad's closest cousins Peter and Jackie. I know they've all watched him with such pride, and we love him.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kristen. Beautiful job. So I want to take a moment first to thank you all for coming to the final stop on the Louis DePasquale retirement tour of 2022. This year, I was also fortunate enough to attend Elton John's Boston stop on his retirement tour of 2022. It was pretty good. But between the park dedication, the jazz festival, and tonight's festivities, Dad, I think you might have him beat. Really though, it has been a joy to attend all of the events honoring my father this year, and to hear folks from every corner of the city share stories and laughs and gratitude for the work my father has done for his 47 years with the city of Cambridge. And doing anything for that magnitude of time makes me think about sustainability and how someone sustains something for such a long period while staying engaged and excited with the work they're doing. In Daniel Pink's book, Drive, he outlines a framework where he highlights 3 key factors that contribute to a sense of intrinsic motivation around one's work. And they are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Starting with autonomy, which isn't about just going out and doing things on your own, In government in particular, work has to be, or at least it should be, collaborative. And it's through that collaboration that trust is built. And trust is the foundation for creating a culture where people can be autonomous in their work. And on that front, I am consistently impressed and inspired by the trusted relationships my dad has built among his peers and colleagues and employees and residents of the city. The way he listens to people and considers their ideas, how he invites them into the conversation, making them feel seen and heard. And in that, he created a container for both himself and the people around him to do their best work. Mastery. Throughout my life, I've watched my dad master things. Coaching Little League, as we've heard throughout the evening, betting on horses, adding numbers in his head in a way that still mystifies me, most recently giving retirement speeches, but most impressively, mastering an understanding of the landscape of the city of Cambridge, its people, its finances, and its potential. Brene Brown defines a leader as anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes and has the courage to develop that potential. Leadership is not about titles or office. It's about the willingness to step up, put yourself out there, and lean into courage. And based on that definition, I think I can speak for everyone here to say that my dad has mastered both the science and the art of leadership. Finally, purpose. I've heard my father say on multiple occasions the lesson he learned early on in his career was that the purpose of government is to help people. And if we zoom out and look at the broader political landscape of this country and countries around the world right now, that concept is missed. And when I think about my deep desires for and passionate championing of social and racial equity and justice, women's rights, environmental and animal rights, LGBTQIA+ rights, a community of which I am a part, I know now that the seed from which all of that grew is in the work that I've watched my father do for my entire life. In the ways that he has helped his colleagues, his teams, his community, and his family to live a better life. How he's helped create the conditions for me to live a better life. And Dad, in your retirement, my hope is that you direct some of that energy that you shared with everyone in this room for them to live a better life and to direct it toward yourself. So that you can enjoy and savor and celebrate this better life that you've created, that you've earned, and that you deserve. So Dad, without any further ado, we love you, we celebrate you, and it is our pleasure to honor you and to welcome you onto stage.
Before I even start my speech, can we just give everybody here a round of applause for what all of you do to make Cambridge successful? I will say this, Anthony, when we were talking about who's going to take the most time, no one picked Timmy, so Timmy, make sure I get to speak so much. You were the longest shot on the board to speak the longest, so good work. So, I know it's late, and Marielle had us convinced we could do this in 45 minutes, but Anthony took over the program, and that was the end of that. So, I will try to be as short as possible, but there is just so many things and people I need to just say thank you to. So, first of all, again, thank all of you for being here. I think as you know by now, I retired in July after 47 years of service with the city. The amazing employees and community partners I was fortunate to work with over the years made my work with the city rewarding and successful. While the city can do a lot, it cannot solve every problem or provide every service on its own. And that's why all of you is so important. The collaborations among the city, our residents, our faith and nonprofit communities, and our business and educational partners have helped positively shape this incredible and amazing city. As a lifelong Cambridge resident, there is no greater honor in my life than to be able to serve the city I love. Growing up in East Cambridge was very special. And I think the best way to explain why it's so special is I'm gonna be 69 years old in December, and there's still so many people who I grew up with here tonight, who grew up in East Cambridge, and I can't tell you what that means to me. So can we give out a shout out to all the people who of East Cambridge that are here tonight, because it was the best neighborhood to grow up in. My family was very important to me, and they ensured I had every opportunity possible, some which I had not even seen for myself. I spent my working career both at work and outside of work trying to ensure that people in this city have access to opportunities that I had. As most of you know, I started working with the city in 1975 in the Treasury Department, in the budget office, where I was fortunate to serve as budget director for 20 years, an office I'll truly always love and have a passion for, and is in great hands with Angela and Taha right now. Assistant City Manager for Finances, Finance Director, also in great hands with David. And finally, a City Manager for almost the last 6 years. But what David mentioned, and I want to confess tonight in reality, was after 2 weeks with the city, I had a game plan. And that game plan was to go home and tell my parents I was getting out of that place, because it wasn't for me. Because as most of you know from East Cambridge, there was a place called Leachman Seals that I had worked from high school and college in, and I loved it there. So when I did my first 2 weeks at the city, I really knew nobody. I went from walking to Central Square, to East Cambridge, to now going to Central Square. I went from knowing everybody in the store to knowing one person in a building. And I had more lunchtime at Leachman, going out with my friends, and at City Hall I sat at my desk every day, never went to lunch for 2 weeks. And I knew one person in the building. But that was all going to be okay, because I had a big city job right away to get this big check, so I can put up with it. But when I got my first check 2 weeks in, I realized Leachman Sales was paying me more than the city of Cambridge. So now it was an easy decision. Just go home and tell your parents you don't want the job. Now, I was more concerned about Galluccio, who obviously played a role in everything I did, than my parents. So we sit up for supper, and my mother was so excited because I got my first check. And I don't know if my sisters remember this, but my mother spoke 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She always had something positive to say, something nice. But my father didn't speak. But when he spoke, you better listen. And he used the word F as just part of a regular vocabulary. Let's just leave it at that. So I was proud of myself, and I said, Mom, I'm really happy you're excited about me getting this check, but I made a decision, and I just want to talk to you two about it. I said, you know, I love Leachmere, and I'm making more money, and I think the time has come for me to, and I got the to. My father looked up and said, this effing conversation is over. And being a good young Italian kid, I said, okay, Dad, sorry it ever crossed my mind, and never talked about it again. But about a week later, and he never had to explain it to me, because if he said it, it was over, trust me. He said, do you know Leachman Seals someday won't be there? And I said, Dad, Leachman Seals is going nowhere. You watch me. I'm a 21-year-old kid. Where's Leachman going? He said, someday you'll retire from the city of Cambridge, and there'll be no Leachman, and that's what this is all about. And I said very politely, Dad, 21 years old. What it's about for me right now is having as much money I have to gamble with as possible. Not what I have with a pension when I retire. But I think about it now as I reflect on my career, and today truly would not have happened if it wasn't for my father's advice. And it's something that I keep in the back of my head more than ever now. But I also want to recognize, as we think about my career, the city staff for their incredible efforts and dedication to this community. One of the reasons I felt I could do this job almost 6 years ago was because I had the opportunity to work with so many amazing people over 40 years. And certainly they proved me right. Because in Cambridge, and I say this often because it's the truth, people don't do their job because it's their job. Not part of the equation. They do their job because it's a passion. It's a love. It's a commitment to the residents of this city that is second to none. And, you know, one thing I didn't want to do was pull out departments, because I think every department's amazing, but I will just say to anybody in this room, if you really want to see the passion and the relationship employees have with the people we serve, go to a Baby U graduation by Human Services, or go to a Community Learning Center graduation at Human Services, and Ellen will be happy to give you those dates. And it's what government is all about. There's no better feeling to see the relationship that those people that we serve have with the people who serve them. So throughout my career, I've had that critical focus on city's financial because I believe a strong financial position is a strength that allows us to do what we need to do. Our strong financial position allows us to continue to provide and expand high-quality services to our residents. If you don't have money, when the school needs something, you just can't do it. When the fire and police are facing issues and you gotta make sure they have the best equipment possible because they deserve it, you just can't do it. But we did that. But it's important that we remember, not so long ago, in the early 1980s, we were dealing with the Proposition 2.5 impacts and literally asking departments to take a 25% reduction. That's only early 80s, everybody. And as a city, we had a terrible bond rating and was making it very difficult for us to really do the capital needs we needed to do to support our city. But fortunately, back then, we had a leader by the name of Bob Haley who made a decision that we had to deliberately focus on the city's finances. That this critical focus remained throughout Haley's administration and continued with the Rossi administration and as well as mine, to making sure that finance was about people, not about money. And maintaining the city's current AAA rating from each of the major credit agencies for the past 23 years has reaffirmed our fiscal approach and put us in a strong position to continue supporting new and major initiatives. And I don't want to get into initiatives because I could speak for 20 hours. But one thing I do have to say it's allowed us to do, and David Maher, who's here today, was a major player in this, is no school is committed to the educational buildings like the city of Cambridge. Over $550 million when our third school is done. And again, there is nothing more important than the education of the kids of our city. And one of the real leaders of education is here, so I gotta give her a call out. Carlone City and another leader, Kenny Sullivan, is here. They understand that we're helping the kids that all out. So, as much as I'm not getting into a lot of specifics, I think that's come up to it that I just have to briefly talk about. One of the things that really allowed us to do what we needed to do, having a strong position, was during COVID-19. I can tell you the public health department, the police department, the public works, law, finance, fire, human services, all quickly came together, really before any city, and said, how do we help our house community? Because that is something we have to address. And before I know it, I had a team of people that literally said, we can build and open a temporary emergency home, a shelter, and a quarantine facility at the War Memorial. And I think we did that in about 2.5 weeks, before the state was even talking about it. The program has since evolved into a new transition wellness house, Center for Unhoused Residents, which is located at the Spalding Rehabilitation Center. One thing I'm most proud of is we were able to provide 275,000 and counting free COVID tests to the people who live in Cambridge to help keep our community safe. And I want to thank Mayor Simmons, former Mayor Simmons, for her leadership in this, because it was also about where were those places going to be. We had to make sure that as we looked at numbers, the fact that was that black and brown individuals were not getting the same percentage of vaccinations and things as white residents were. And with an incredible effort of our Cambridge Fire Department, and some of them are here today, no fire department anywhere put the time and effort to make sure that our residents were safe. But I will also tell you this, 7 days a week, often I went there at the end of the day. And yeah, a lot of firefighters know me, but a lot don't. And at the end of the day, after 8 hours, after serving 400 or 500 people, their response was welcoming, thanking us for coming. And that allowed people to come back and come back and come back again. So can we just give a round of applause? I know the fire department and police department for that. Amazing, amazing job. And then also, of course, Cambridge is about partnership. Where are we going to do these clinics? And the Cambridge High set up and said, whatever you need. St. Paul's AME Church, whatever you need, and Trinity Properties, whatever you need. And that really allowed us to have the ability to do it throughout the city. So even with COVID-19 and everything going on in the city, somehow we continue to provide more and more services right in the middle of COVID because we knew it was important. And I believe that no city had a stronger approach in protecting all its residents during COVID or a better approach than the city of Cambridge. And I want to thank everyone who was involved with that. But I really want to just, and again, I hate shouting out names because so many people played a role, but during the middle of COVID, I probably had the greatest 1-2-3 punch any manager or mayor could have ever had. And I talked to one of them yesterday, and I went to lunch with one of them last week, and I talked to the other one today. I was incredibly fortunate to have partners every Monday night and 7 days a week, like former Commissioner Maher, who was a real leader in making sure, under an amazing police department, the best police department of any police department anywhere, that we did everything we could to make sure our residents were safe. Our Public Health Commissioner, Claude Jacobs, 8 in the morning, 10 at night, telling me what we're going to do. And then, really, the Wizard of Oz. Someone that I can't tell you how much respect I have for him, and he was my final go-to on what we could do, and I talked to him today about it, and I was hoping we could make it, but he couldn't. And that's aside Sayre, the director of the Cambridge Health Alliance, who really has been a leader in making sure that how we keep Cambridge safe. So can we give them another round of applause? And I also want to say how proud I am of now with Claude and Commissioner Bygone, the leadership we have, Commissioner Elo and Derek Mule have done a great job taking their place. It really is a team effort. So I think as we've heard many times, the role of government is about helping families. And I will tell you, my first week in the job, I got a visit from someone who everyone has spoken about tonight. My mentor, my friend, Al Galluccio Sr. And he walked into my office and he said, "You're not going to be helping many people in your current role. But somewhere down the line, your role's going to change. And remember one thing, government is about helping people. If you can't do that, don't talk about anything else. It starts and ends right there." But he also said, it's about helping people who might never walk into City Hall, but letting them know they're welcome in City Hall. It's about helping the people who don't come here on Monday nights. It's about helping the people who don't trust government and how you make them trust government. And the way you do that is you reach out, because when one of their friends comes in and you treat them like family, and I'll never forget that, you treat them like family, they're going to tell other members of their family that City Hall is a great place to come. And I really have kept that in mind throughout my career. Those words that Al sent me, and the Lucci family has been a dear relationship with mine, and I just got to give a shout out because it means so much to me that his grandson Peter is here with his wife today. His father was a dear friend, former state representative. The Galluccio and DePasquale, everyone thought we were related. That's how close we were, and it means a lot to have that family relationship. But one of the things I thought we do to help customer service is very proud of the fact that I created the first City Manager Citizen Advisory Committee. And I know some of those members are here today, so I just want to thank them and recognize them, because what that did, it allowed us to speak to the people who are going to be affected from all parts of the city on how they thought other residents would be affected. So instead of us thinking we knew all the answers, because we don't, let's reach out to the people who are going to be affected by our decisions and then see how to go about it. And I really think that was a thing that really helped us do what we needed to do. So the theory was very simple. If someone is coming to City Hall or reaching out to city departments, it's because they need help. And we must listen to them and try to get them the help they need. That's why providing excellent customer service has always been my top priority, and always will be. Again, I was very fortunate to be city manager and work with 3 excellent mayors who really were partners. My first mayor and dear friend, Councilor Simmons, 1 month on the job, we got hit with a 10-alarm fire in Wellington, Harrington. And I don't think either one of us had a playbook for that. Maybe you did, Mayor Simmons, but I know I didn't. But I know one thing, we put a playbook in place. And we made those residents feel the best they possibly could. And I remember being down there the night of the fire, and Chief Reardon was there, and He said to me, do you want to go on TV? And I said, no, you do that. But what I can tell you is that night, after standing there for about 8 hours, I learned what the fire department was all about. And I learned what local aid was all about. As cities were coming in all over to help us, and we never missed a beat. And it was amazing, and that's because of the leadership and the men and women of the firefighters everywhere. And that night, there was a lot of damage, but a 10-alarm fire is going to do that. But I know one thing, with the work we did, we minimized that damage. And we immediately put in plans on how to help those people. And Mayor Simmons, your office was phenomenal with that. We even got the opportunity to have Isaiah Thomas have a little holiday party for those people the following year. And it was just something that I'll always treasure, how the people were thanking us. People who have been in fires have lost everything, are thanking us. No, we need to be thanking them for allowing us to do that. And then, of course, then I had Marc McGovern, who's been a dear friend. And you know, I'm going to mention Universal Design Park, but the city manager can't do a design park if we don't have partners. And when I went up to Marc and said, Marc, I got this idea, what do you think? I couldn't even finish the sentence. His question was, what do you need and how can we do it? And that's the kind of relationship we did. And of course, Mayor Siddiqui under COVID. No mayor should ever have to deal with COVID. No manager should ever have to deal with COVID. But like I said, I think our partnership is something we're all proud of. So I want to again thank all the councilors that I worked with for over 47 years. Our elected officials play a key role in the direction of how our city moves, and I've always tried to respect the relationship between the city council and the administration. I want to give a special thank you to the councilors who gave me this opportunity, who voted for me to become city manager, and for those who voted for my extension for a year and a half later. I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to be city manager in a city I love, and in my entire life truly cannot believe I had this opportunity. So again, I didn't want to do many shout-outs, but there are 4 councilors here who managed to vote for both of my contracts. Because by the time my second contract was up, most councilors decided they didn't want to be councilors anymore. So it put me in a little delicate spot. But I was very fortunate to still have a base of Councilor Carlone, Councilor McGovern, Councilor Simmons, and Councilor Toomey. And I just want to thank all the 4 of you. Finally, you know, you don't do this job for recognition or have things named at you. I mean, I have to be honest. We're paid well to do our job, and we love doing it. But the honor of having that Universal Design Park named in my honor is something that me and my family will never forget. And I want to thank the previous city councilor for making that happen. But I also want to thank the city for recognizing that we always talk about how we need to have diversity. Well, diversity in park is important too. Because to go to a playground and see children not being able to use the equipment there because of some limitations is something that the city of Cambridge cannot accept. And that Universal Park is for everybody. It is the best Universal Park anywhere. Paul Ryder knows that because we went and looked at all the ones, and my last word to Paul was, let's do a much better job than that Menino Park, will you please? And he did that, so I just want to thank Paul and everybody. I promise I'm winding down, but I have to start off by just saying I can't thank Bob Hill and Rich Rossi enough for their support and guidance ever since my first day with the city. But most people don't know my first assignment with the city was to see if the city should create a water and sewer rate. And I left the finance office that day, director's office, and I went home and said, I don't even know what he's talking about. I'm going to write a paper on it? But I remembered one thing. And my coach and friend, Rich Rossi, worked at the water department, and if this says water in it, he's got to be able to know something about it tomorrow I call. So I immediately called Rich, and he said to me, well, you're going to have an interesting discussion with our department head here right now, but I think I've come with you, I think we can get this going. And we had that discussion, and it was quite a discussion. But it did allow us to really come up with the first water sewer rate in the city of Cambridge. And that was so important back then, and I think about it now, because the council wanted to get Harvard and MIT to pay more. Well, I think with Harvard and MIT in this city is one of the main reasons why we are what we are. They are our top taxpayers, they are our top employees. And let me say something else about Sarah and Tim, because I know they're both here, Tom. They are partners that when you ask, what do you need, they say, do you need anything more? So to our universities and to Tom and Sarah, thank you for everything you've done. Rich, that day you started, as you have my whole career, had my back, and I can't thank you enough for your leadership and guidance and allowing me to be where I am today. Your friendship for over 50 years is something that I truly, truly appreciate, and I want to make sure you understand that. And to Bob couldn't be here tonight, but I talked to him. He gave me the opportunity to be budget director and city manager, and the confidence he showed in me back then, when not everyone thought I could do either of those jobs, to be very honest, is something I will never forget, and I am so proud of where we are as a city right now. Again, I want to recognize the workforce. Our employees, many of whom are here tonight, are the greatest asset of the city. From our laborers to our administration, each employee provides excellent service to the community, and their passionate dedication to public service is second to none. I can tell you firsthand that the past 2.5 years clearly demonstrated that every employee plays an essential role. I think before that we might have thought of essential roles as police and fire, and I understand why. But COVID made us realize that every department, every employee played an essential role. And I am ever so grateful to those employees who I've had the privilege to work and bring us to where we are today. So can we just recognize the Cambridge City employees that are here today? I promise I'm going to wrap up quickly. I do have to just give a shout out to my immediate office. I mean, they have been partners that have just been incredible. Dan and Edie, public information, you know, one of the things you have to do during COVID is make sure people know what's going on, and we were able to do that, and I think our information was second to none. Matt took a new job, and the next thing you know, he was dealing with every restaurant that was on the verge of being shut down, and became a real sponsor on how we could help our residents, and worked with David Maher in the chamber to make sure that we did everything we could to keep our restaurants going. Francesca, who's been the person who greets people, because if you're going to make people feel warm and welcome, you have to greet them correctly. To Mary Ellen, who really is the heart and soul of the manager's office forever. She gets it done. There is nobody who has a better history in the city of Cambridge. I don't know what I would have done almost the last 6 years without her. She has been a true partner and a leader in terms of making sure that the city is doing the right thing. To Lee, throw Lee's job description in the barrel. First of all, Lee had to learn to talk Louis because he wrote all my speeches. And I didn't write this one, I could take the best of Lee and try to combine it. But more than that, Lee was, during COVID, someone every day of the week who I spent time with trying to figure out what were our next steps. And it was just so important to be able to do that. To Betsy and Lisa, their commitment to equity and inclusion is second to none, and I can't thank them for their efforts. And then, of course, to Stacy. I was so fortunate to work with Stacy in the finance department. And I gotta give a shout out as I continue to talk about Stacy, because before Stacy, there was someone who worked with me in budget and finance, and I need people to help me, I admit it, and I could not have had two better people have my back, and one of those people is still here tonight, and I know Crispina is somewhere who was Stacy before Stacy. So Crispina, thank you for everything. Stacy, we left finance together, and we did a great job, I think, as a team. One thing about Stacy, she knows Louis, and often she could make decisions that I didn't have to be involved in because there was another 20 things on my desk. And I think we had a great partnership because we had one thing in mind, as we've talked about. How do you help people? How do you help people who need it the most? And I'm really proud of the work we accomplished, and I can't thank her enough for really being a part with me in this journey. So I just want to give Stacy a shout out. I was going to recognize all the speakers, but not only they had 22 speakers get up. I would just say it's been a privilege to know and work with all of you. Cambridge is so fortunate. We have the best elected officials anywhere in terms of making and understanding the fact that our people need help. And it's been a pleasure to work with them. I do give one shout out to Bishop Greene, because when you talk about helping people who need it the most, being there when they need them, there was always one person that I knew I could call and say, how do we get to this? How do we get there? And what should we do? and that's Bishop Greene. So Bishop Greene, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think there's no prouder thing than your children. If you're a parent, you understand that. And, you know, the Chronicle did an interview me before I left, and the Chronicle writer said you're a crier, and I can't believe I haven't cried yet. But to my two children, Louis and Kristen, for tonight in your speeches, they are everything to me. They mean the world, and I cannot ask for two better kids. And I just want to again recognize them and thank them. I also want to recognize my son's partner, who has really brought out the best of him, Tyler. Thank you for being part of this group. My two sisters and their husbands right there, Mary, Vinny, Linda, Matt, John, please, thank you. My cousin Dot, whose husband Bill was my godfather. I wish he could be here. He was special. And my daughter mentioned some other special people who we wish could be here. A special shout out to Leo, who just stepped up with more than I can ever imagine. Leo, where are you? Thank you for helping this happen. Leo, I know you're somewhere. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And my last shout out for working tonight is, you know, we mentioned it earlier, but events happen in the city all the time. We have a Danny Park Day, and we bring 50 workers together, all volunteers, and we help out so many people. We have a dance festival in the lawn of City Hall that brings thousands and thousands of people, but we just make it look good. But this one person who does that is the lead, and that's not a job that many people can do or would want. And when this was coming about, she jumped in and said, I will be the lead, and this wouldn't happen today without her, and she's been the lead in so many important things in the city, and that's Mary Ellen. So can we give her recently retired Mary Ellen. And even though Mary Ellen takes charge, when you with Anthony, Timmy, and David Martin, it's not easy, but we were able to do it. And last but not least, I have to say that this journey would not have been possible without my wife. I think we should look and saw what my kids have accomplished. She did a lot of that. This job makes you leave a lot of time when you can't be at city events, when you can't do things with your children you want to do. I know especially the public safety people know that. And Cheryl was the rock that kept everything going. So it's been a partnership for 43 years. We owe Councilor Toomey for having that partnership. And I've thanked them many times for it. But really, again, great run. And again, I just want to give a shout out. This is an amazing turnout. I can't thank everybody enough on Friday night to somehow come here. And you know, one other thing, and I don't want to get into the specifics, but there may be some proceeds left, and we are going to take those proceeds because some people couldn't be here and do it to something that I know is important to me and Anthony Galluccio. It'll be for scholarships for Cambridge kids who play in sports when they go to college. So I want to thank you for being part of this. Good night, everybody. I know we ran over. I apologize for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.